Hey, okay, well, I thought I would do something a little different today and review a book I read recently. It's called A Matter of Blood and is the first in a trilogy of novels written by an English author, Sarah Pinborough, who wrote, among other things, a story I narrated on here recently called The Confessor's Tale. She has also had at least one of her books made into a series by Netflix, so she seems to be doing quite well for herself at the moment, which is good, as I think she's a talented author. The best way to categorize this book is as a gritty thriller with supernatural elements. It's set in London in the near future. Our protagonist is the highly flawed but likable Detective Inspector Cass Jones. Cass is a troubled guy with something truly disturbing in his past from his days working undercover, which we get pieces of as we go through the story before it all comes out near the end of the book. He carries a lot of guilt, and it poisons everything in his life, from his marriage to his relationship with his younger brother, Christian, to his relationship with his co-workers. Despite all of this, however, he is a good cop, and were it not for the incident in his past, he would probably climb higher through the ranks. He also has a friendship with a local gangster, Artie Mullins, from whom he takes bribes on behalf of the rest of his team. The economy has hit rock bottom and is hanging by a thread, so the police aren't getting paid much anymore by the government, so they're being paid by powerful criminal elements to essentially turn a blind eye. He also has a history of extramarital affairs due to his less than perfect marriage, one of which was with his sergeant, Claire, who is in some ways quite innocent, but who is towing the line and becoming slightly more cynical with time, in part due to Kaz's influence, but their relationship seems friendly even though their fling ended sometime before the story begins. The story centers around a group of murders which share a handful of macabre elements in common, some of which it turns out are thought to be impossible or at least exceedingly hard to replicate. There is a cryptic note left at the scene of each killing as well, which, while it doesn't lead directly to the identity of the murderer, gives us some clues about his viewpoint, some of which is described by psychologist Tim Hask, who is called in to create a profile. Meanwhile, Cass has to deal with a family tragedy, one for which he is blamed at first but is later cleared of, as well as a case involving the seemingly botched assassination attempt of a local gangster, leading to the shooting of two small children, a situation which angers and saddens Cass and his team, and regarding which a mysterious piece of evidence shows up addressed to Cass personally. Much of the suspicion for at least some of what is going on begins to fall on a mysterious and powerful group known as the Bank, who Cass's brother works for. When the world economy all but collapsed some years before the story, it was the newly formed bank that bailed everyone out, and now they have enormous political clout as a result. As Kaz digs deeper, however, we find that the bank may not be all-powerful, and if we learn anything by the end of the novel, it's that everyone has someone pulling their strings, and there are trails of corruption everywhere, at least one of which ends up at Cass's own doorstep. The supernatural elements are woven well into the plot. Cass keeps seeing his brother at various times in the story after the aforementioned tragedy, but we are never totally sure whether he is really seeing him or whether it's just a projection of his guilt. What isn't in doubt, though, is the seemingly supernatural power of the murderer, whom we get the point of view of on a handful of occasions, and the strange glow that one of the characters in the story can see. An ability that links the character in question through their family to not only the murderer, but to a group that the murderer used to be a part of and is trying to break away from. What this group isn't made entirely clear by the end of the novel, but they're clearly extremely powerful, and given that this is the first in a trilogy of stories, what we learn of them here serves to whet the reader's appetite for the books to come. In summary, then, A Matter of Blood is an interesting look at guilt, tragedy, the effects of both, also at faith and loss of it, be it in the supernatural or in society's institutions or just in other people, and what can happen when power of any sort, natural or otherwise, is given free rein. If I have any criticism of it at all, it's that it's slightly overlong, or that it feels slightly overlong. I think maybe if this had been a 4-part series rather than a trilogy, the information could have been spaced out better and this could have been addressed. But it could just be a pacing issue and the fact that this is the first book in a series. The pacing itself and the chapter length do seem a little ponderous at times, and the ending, which is a downer in a lot of ways, may leave some readers feeling unsatisfied. It's clear that the book has ambitions to punch above its weight in terms of its twists, as well as its story and its characterizations, but ultimately it never quite reaches the heights that it sets for itself, in my opinion. Having said that, as I say, this is the first novel of a trilogy, so the issues I've mentioned may well be addressed down the road, and as an introduction to that trilogy it works well despite its flaws. I'm currently reading the second book in the series, which seems to be a little faster paced, and I may do a review of that in the future. Until then, however, and with all of the above being said, please like, share, comment and subscribe, and all that other good stuff. Cheers for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.